I am calling the meeting to order at 6:05 on,
You know what I did though?
A new one.
where's the agenda?
Somebody did not proof my agenda.
I say we elect a new chair instead. Then.
Yeah, I know, right?
Oh, sorry.
Did you notice that? Number 2.
Oh,
Unless you'd like to step down.
I never claimed to
welcome,
be a
Daniel.
proofreader.
Chair again.
I never claimed to be a proofreader.
I know, right?
Well, what should we do?
That has already
You
been
can
decided.
not approve that part
Yeah.
when we get
Revise
to
the agenda.
Okay,
it. Or we can just elect you again.
that's fine.
Yeah. Well, who knows what's going to happen?
Okay. I'm going to call the meeting to order at 6:05 on July 29th, 2019.
We can
Roll
do.
call.
All right.
Who is here? Say your
Chloe
name.
Stapleton Gray.
Naomi Siegel.
Jack Kinney.
Daniel Cardozo.
And Jeremy Allen.
Welcome, Daniel.
Thank you.
Yes. Glad to have you.
I'm excited to join.
And can I make a comment or a personal privilege comment?
Sure.
I just want to thank everyone for agreeing to reschedule the meeting so I could go to my baseball game last week. It was a great game.
We have our priorities.
So that's what it was.
I had the tickets for a long time.
It's summer.
All right, so has everyone had a chance to look at the old minutes that we have here?
So it looks like we have April
Have,
2019.
October, January, and April 2019.
I left hard copies here for.
What?
No.
So in the minutes that I had, that I did for April, I thought we did the elections last meeting in
Yeah,
April.
we did those in April.
But
It says in January we did
Okay.
them. But
So-
I think it was in April.
Yeah, it was in April.
So the January minutes shouldn't say that about the elections, and that part should come out, right?
Okay.
And on my own minutes that I did for April, I wasn't sure who was there. I know Chloe and Naomi and I were there, and was Nico there?
Nico was there.
Okay. Just wasn't clear.
Raquel was not.
Raquel was not, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I can update those.
So do I have a motion to approve the minutes
With the changes?
with the changes?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Minutes are approved for October 2018 and January and April 2019.
Okay.
Public comment?
To vote.
I'm sorry, oh, sorry.
All those in favor?
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay. Motion passes. Public comment.
All right, we have some public here.
Uh-huh.
Perfect.
Before the public comment, we should decide who's taking minutes for tonight. I will do that.
Thank you, Jack.
Right.
Thank you.
Wow. Public comment. Do we have members of the public who would like to make a comment? You don't have to. You can just sit there.
Okay, I didn't get a chance to read the minutes. Good evening. I'm Boris Cooper, resident of Albany and Park and Rec Commissioner here in the city. And of course, I know Jeremy. He came to one of our programs where we had the speaker symposium at the Senior Center. And I'm very much looking forward to hear more about the events and possibilities of expanding media here in the city to reach our citizens with commentary, political viewpoints, and just overall news. And so I'm hoping we give that opportunity to the citizens to possibly create content and collaborate with some of the people that have expertise in that area as far as filming, editing, etc. I'm also a musician. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. If you have any great ideas, you can feel free to share them with us. All right. Good. Well, thank you. Does anyone want to comment on the comment? No? Okay.
No?
Let's move on to announcements. Albany Film Fest Subcommittee Report 2019.
Jack, you want to do that?
Yeah.
Sure. We had a meeting just before this meeting on the Albany Film Fest to touch base with where we're at. We are looking at how things went for the 2019 Film Fest, and it looks more or less like we broke even, so that was a good thing. And we're planning for the next Film Fest in March of 2020. The documents for sponsorship, we've tried to streamline those, and those are now complete, right? So those will be coming out, and we'll be concentrating on making sure we have enough sponsors to carry forth the festival again. We'll probably be going to many of our existing sponsors, but we know we're going to have to get some additional sponsors. So we're looking for that, and anyone who has ideas about someone or a company or organization that we should ask to be a sponsor, please let us know. We have been looking into having the Albany Film Fest be a qualifying film fest for the Academy Awards in short films, and we have one of our judges, David Eisenman, is a member of the Academy as a filmmaker, and he's helping us because he knows the inside workings of the Academy. And it looks like we meet the minimum qualifications as a film festival to be a qualifying for the Academy Awards, but there is an application that has to be submitted. It requires a lot of in-depth information about the film fest. The deadline for this year is August 1st, and we don't think we can meet that deadline. But it's August 1st every year. So we're going to start working. Naomi and I are going to work on filling out the application so we're ready to apply before August 1st of 2020.
Right.
And we think, and from talking to David Eisenman and others who are members of the Academy and filmmakers, everyone seems to agree that if your film festival is qualifying film festival for an Academy Award, that would attract more films, probably higher quality films. So it's a good thing for us to try to attain. So that's one of the projects we're working on. And we are going to make an effort to have more filmmaker outreach in next year's Film Fest, and that could be workshops, trainings, panels. We think that's one of the areas that our Film Fest could improve in, so we're looking to doing that. And we had some discussions about the program for the Film Fest, how to make the one for next year improve on what we did in 2019, which was pretty good anyway. But anything else that I forgot?
I think that covers what we talked about. Yeah, we didn't talk about submissions, but we continue to get submissions. I've watched about half of them. There's some good ones in there. So if anybody, you guys want to watch, feel free. You might enjoy them.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't bring this up in the Film Fest meeting, but one of the other things that David Eisenman did is he gave us a big addition to our list of film schools to do outreach to get films from, including a lot of animation film schools in LA as well as in Texas and Germany and other places. So we're
It's
communicating with
really
them
helpful.
now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I guess that's. Oh yeah.
Oh, those
Great.
are nice big ones.
I'll be leaving in a couple weeks, but I'll do what I can.
That's all right. You can just drop them off on your way out of town. Okay, so that's that, I think, for Albany Film Fest and AUSD report.
You have anything now that you're officially done with AUSD? I
Ellie?
could say that is that the city now is working with the school district to bring their administrative staff onto the Granicus platform, so they will be using agendas and time stamping and video time stamping services, the same that we do for city council. We're going to be adopting that into the school district's meeting procedure. So I've been working with the school district over these last couple of months to develop a new agenda. They have been using Granicus for live streaming in addition to our YouTube live stream, but they haven't been creating agendas in the Granicus platform. Granicus is the service that we use to timestamp videos with agenda items and supporting documents for city council, the commissions, and now with the committee advisory bodies. So basically every commission is a meeting that is filmed and now on Granicus, and the school district will be using that same platform too. It's for the school district, the cost incentive in that they're already paying for that, essentially, because we contract our services to the school board. They just have opted not to use that portion of it for the last 10 years or so, and now they're going to move to that. So that's my report for the school district.
And I understand there's a new
There is a
superintendent.
new superintendent. He started July 1st. So I've met him briefly at one of the last meetings. Yeah.
Who's the new superintendent?
Ooh, I would have to. Do you remember?
I can look it up.
Yeah, I can't remember what his. Even though I just made his account, I can't. His last name? Wells.
Yeah, Dr. Wells.
Dr. Wells. Okay. I think that's all that I can say for the school district at this point.
Okay, KLB staff report.
Mine will be pretty brief right now, since we're going to be talking about a number of things that I'm currently working on. Basically, over the summer, I'm taking this opportunity to clean up a lot of our installations, kind of go through our equipment and at the community center here at City Hall and the Emergency Operations Center, just going an annual run through, making sure that all of our connections are working, that everything is dusted and cleaning off. I'm just trying to go through and make sure it's all working correctly. I was actually quite proud about this. I finally figured out our fiber issue at the Edith Stone Room, so that all of the feeds, all of the presentation feeds can now go downstairs, and we can switch that. For the last 2 years, we haven't been able to receive a presentation display from a computer in addition to our video feeds. So I spent about 4 hours on Friday testing each point of potential failure up and down those stairs for about three. I mean, I must have gone up and down 30 times, because there's, is it the fiber? Is it the connection? Is it the cable? Is it the input? Is it the output? And so we kind of worked it all down, all the format standards, and I figured out kind of what the issue was. It's a combination of about 2 or 3 different things that once I figured out what it was, I was able to correct it. And it's a tremendous time saver for us, because everything that we've done in that room, we would have to film it in real time and then come back and edit and add in slides or whatever their presentation material was, which is,
A lot of time.
it is, especially if you're trying to do something quickly. And I can't, since I'm a staff of 1 and 2.5, I wasn't able to come back always and get that edited in a timely fashion to get it up on our station. Now we can do it live, record it, and we can put it up, within
Great.
the next day. Even if we don't go live, I would like to go back now that the brown bag, all the library events are really, really good about starting and ending on time, where they weren't always before. So I think we can probably go back to live broadcasts either on TV and or, live web stream too, which is something I would like to start in September.
Great.
The other part is, this is just very basic. I'm ordering a new storage system for our broadcast output. So 2 years ago, we updated our broadcast server, basically the piece of equipment that switches between all the different programming. But we only had old hard drives from 10 years ago that didn't quite work. I made it work for a while, but now we're going to buy the new storage system so that we can. And I was reticent. The reason I mentioned this is I've been reticent to do a bunch of programming and adding a bunch of digital video content to the server library, and something that I was just going to get rid of on these old hard drives. So now with the new system, then we can build up a good file system for the content that we want to play back, and hopefully build out the programming on the channel.
Great.
So, and I'm done.
Right on time.
Right on time.
Timer?
No. That was Naomi's timer for Jerry to be quiet.
Is the storage system the same as this service? It was one of those things where like the vendor had like, here's our server, here's our storage.
Yeah,
Would you like both, and you went with one for the time?
we could use any sort of third party like RAID USB
Yeah.
system, but this is a NAS system, so it works in conjunction with this proprietary company's broadcast system. Sometimes, if we buy a third party product, sometimes it works easily. In my experience, it's a specific type of RAID array that I wasn't able to make work on the old drives that we had, so I was using a kind of a different setup. With this, it just kind of comes out of the box, you plug it in, and then you've just got all of your storage, and it's redundant. So,
And with a staff of 1.2, that saves a lot of time.
yeah, exactly. It's more expensive. I think it's a 2 terabyte RAID system for about $4,000, but that's kind of, they have 2 options, the smaller one and that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't think we should get the smaller one. So that's my report on KALB. KALB is continuing to do more work with communication, social media, website over this last year or so, and we're actually doing a lot to support emergency preparedness here in Albany, doing some more PSAs and communications with our public information officer to try and streamline how we get information out to the public in the event of an emergency. So that's been a kind of a key thing that we've been working on recently, specifically with regard to our social media and being consistent with how to put that information out to the public in a quick way that people are able to hear and digest and understand. Changing a few things on our website so it's a little bit more user friendly to get to the information without having to go through, 3 or 4 clicks, to get all the way to whatever it is somebody's looking for.
Great. You're busy. Move on to 6.1, city camera system upgrade.
All right. Well, this one I'm actually kind of excited about. This is sort of a first pass at kind of getting some feedback from the committee for everybody who doesn't. For the new folks and our audience, Community Media Access Committee works with our KALB staff and the city to make recommendations on how to spend our PEG funds. So this would be an expense that would be coming out of PEG funds. PEG funds are the fees paid to the city by AT&T and Comcast currently that are designated to be used for public access, educational, and government programming. So those funds can be used for equipment to support the advancement of those, I guess, ideals here as it relates to programming and content creation. So typically we have used those funds to procure equipment that we could that would help further the dissemination of information to the public or to help the public create their own content, kind of in a nutshell. So in 2008, we redid the city council chambers, and shortly thereafter, we updated the community center. So I'm specifically looking at these 4 Panasonic cameras that we have in this room and the switcher, which are still in good condition. They're HD cameras. We paid roughly $8,000 per camera when they were installed. But I began to have some technical issues with a couple of them, intermittently. So this is the time to have a conversation about what we want to do next. So I've been looking. So we have a few different options, and I wanted to kind of pose a few different scenarios. We also have at the community center in the hall where we do a lot of programs, we do not have any PTZ cameras. In the Edith Stone room, we have a cheaper version Sony camera, which was about a $1,200 camera. All of the cameras are functioning okay for their age and for their technical specificity. What we have found in practice is none of these cameras work very well in low light. So any of our presentations that we do with in the Edith Stone room where somebody is doing a PowerPoint or playing a video, these cameras don't perform very well, and the quality of the actual image is not very good. When in this room, they work okay for a government meeting, but the color is off. We're only doing a live stream at 720, so we're not full HD. However, the newer cameras imaging 10 years later in HD is considerably better. The 4K cameras, which are the same equivalent price as what we paid for 10 years ago, is a much better image quality. That was one of the main reasons why I went to NAB in April, was to take a look firsthand to see what they were like, and I was impressed. They were good looking cameras. I most likely would stay between Sony and Panasonic and Canon. This is a Panasonic system that we have right here. But my thoughts were this: I'd like to repurpose these. Most likely, these are the better quality cameras. I was thinking about moving these to and installing them in the community center as fixed cameras there. Potentially upgrading the cameras in the Edith Stone or into the Edith Stone room. My reservation for putting these cameras into the Edith Stone room would be that they're probably too big for that small space. We'd probably want to go with a smaller profile camera. The Edith Stone room is about half the size, and you put these big cameras in there, it's kind of oppressive to the
Loom.
Yeah. So and that particular population of people who are attending those programs are way more sensitive to Big Brother,
Right.
or any sort of perception of like somebody is why am I on camera right now? In a government room like this, it's kind of come to be expected. So I wanted to just kind of like show you what I'm looking at. Let's see if I can get this. So this is the new version of the Panasonic. We'd get a little bit better pricing. Looks more or less the same. The install is the same. But I likely would set up a time with a vendor rep to come in here, bring the cameras, and then test them to look and see what a newer camera looks like image quality as compared to these old cameras. And I wanted to, when that happens, invite CMAQ to come and be a part of it. This is what we've done in the past, and I think this would be kind of the prudent thing to do, because if we'd be looking at roughly about, somewhere in a $25,000 to $35,000 package, more or less, for one set of cameras, and then, what to do in the other locations. So, looking at this, we would need a new controller, because the newer cameras don't work with our older controller. So it'd essentially be a new system for City Hall taking priority, and then where to put the other cameras. Sony's smaller camera, HD, 4K, kind of all the same sort of things we'd be looking for. This probably would be better for the Edith Stone Room. Between $6,000 and $8,000 for this type of camera.
Is that a better camera?
This
Smaller.
it's a little bit smaller. They're roughly about this size. The Panasonic that I pulled up, I think I actually may have pulled up a different model, because I think this one is roughly the same price. It's right around $8,000. I think I pulled up the wrong one when I set this up earlier. And then there's, I'll get to that in a second. And if we went with the newer Sony cameras, we would need a new Sony controller. And so the questions that I wanted to pose for discussion: is it better to have the same systems in multiple locations? Because I can say Jack has been one of our volunteers who has come to and has actually stepped in for a number of the events for the library. So he's had firsthand experience on our switching system and our camera controller. So I'd be looking for something that had a little bit of a more fluid movement, because you've used that one before. It's very jerky. Yeah. So if you're going to set up a shot, it's really hard to slide into something at the community center and have it look good. Here at City Hall, we have a very good controller. It just would not be functional with the newer versions of the cameras. So that's one point of the discussion, is would the committee prefer to see all new everywhere, all of the same models of camera? Would you like us to kind of try and repurpose the older cameras as best as possible in places where they might work? For example, in the community room, which is much bigger and has a lot more light, these cameras may be perfectly fine. Maybe we only need one or two of them there, because we could supplement it with a handheld. Kind of wanted to pose a few different options, and then look at ways of setting up some tests where people could see, and I could get a little bit of feedback for, because ultimately what we would do is we were going to do a project like this. We'd want to get a recommendation from the committee. This has been vetted, this has been tested. We are recommending to the council to spend this much money on this particular camera project, and why. And that's part one. Part two is I'm also looking at handheld cameras. When we did our first big camera purchase back in 2008, we were working in conjunction with the school district. And so we purchased 3 ENG style, kind of over-the-shoulder cameras, because we were working with their broadcast program. So at that time, we were looking at something that would work well to set up a 3-camera shoot for live events at the high school: theater, drama, baseball, girls basketball. We did volleyball, and so it was a coordinated system. Those cameras, we still have them. They don't look very good, and they're complicated to set up. It's a lot of moving pieces, and that was one of the reasons why it was difficult to get student buy-in to use those particular cameras, because a few years into that, DSLRs became a very popular camera option for filmmakers, because it's smaller, it's much easier to manage, and the image quality was much better. They had some detracting issues in that they couldn't record for more than 15 minutes to a half an hour before overheating. So we purchased DSLR cameras, which worked really well for events and for PSAs and filming interviews and those sort of things. But those cameras have gone through being loaned out to lots of people over the years. Lots of young people who didn't treat them well, lots of young people who did treat them well, and they weren't really high-quality cameras to begin with. So for the last 2 or 3 years, I've been using my personal camera, which is a Cameron, very high-quality Canon camera for all of my city work. I like the image quality, but it's not something that people can just pick up and use. One, it's mine. But so I will be looking towards, over this next year or so, what types of cameras that we can get that will suit would be able to be used in conjunction either with our installed systems, be able to be used by city staff, loaned out to volunteers, used at any of our city events. DSLRs are a little bit more sensitive, and it is harder to loan out. There have been a number of times where PD or fire has said, hey, do you have a camera we can take? Because we need to go do something like this. And and I gave them a DSLR. They're like, well, where's record? So once I went to NAB, I started looking at different types of camera models. Oh, sorry, I'm getting that little flicker here, switching back and forth. Anyways, disregard that. So this is my camera. This is a camera body and putting lenses on it. So we could buy 3 of these, but I think that would be too complicated and it would be expensive, especially if we're buying, new cameras here. You could see, this is just the body, then it's lenses, and then it's all of the other stuff. And this is really more something for filmmakers. I was looking at these series of Canon cameras that record on SD cards. They don't have the time lapse, the time constraints of DSLRs. We could record hour-long, 2-hour-long events, which I think would be important for the use, but they're also a little bit more robust in being able to be loaned out to people. There's a few different varieties. There's this is kind of like the more professional quality. Oh, sorry, guys. Let me see if I can get that. All right. So having professional audio in and having HDSDI out, which is kind of the professional level video output, which would allow us to plug into any of our for those of you who don't know, we have a bunch of different camera input points in our facilities where we can plug in a handheld camera into our PTZ system. So in the back of the room, there's a little black panel with some connections on it. This has that same type of connector video that sends HD video and audio together in one cable. So something along the lines of this is fairly low cost. We could integrate that into our existing system. Say if we wanted to record something out there in the parking lot and have a wired connection into here or into the lobby or at the community center, maybe we only put 2 PTZ cameras in the back of the community center and then we have a handheld input. So there's 3 different, I won't go into the details of which camera, but there's a small consumer one that I think would be good for loaning to cops and city staff, or having something to give to a community member should they want to make something. It's not a $10,000 camera. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's a package that we put together that has a $1,000 camera, so the quality is still good. But it's, if it were to get damaged or disappear, it wouldn't necessarily break the bank. And there's some that zoom in, have a better digital zoom. These are not changeable lenses like with the higher quality camera, but it'd still all be within the Canon family because all of our DSLRs and lenses are all Canon. So the kind of the color kind of color system would be similar. So the reason I'm bringing all of this together, that's 1 PTZ, 2 handheld cameras. We also have the leftover Pixel phones from Google Spotlight, Daydream, virtual reality. Yeah. So we had some Film Fest activities from part of Google that went defunct, and they left us with a variety of Pixel phones, which is basically just a, it's a Pixel 2 phone with a smartphone with a decent camera. Which I think will be very good for like storytelling workshops. There's a lot of things that we can do with those cameras for putting them on a small gimbal, or people making a movie or doing interviews with those. So I see that as something that we can certainly integrate into our system of loanable or usable with our high school AV kids and stuff like that.
Do they provide Daydream headsets as well?
Yeah. So we have 4 of those. Currently. So the reason that I'm so the reason that I'm mentioning all of that is there's some combination of all of this. I'd like to get some priorities in terms of like what is the most important. And none of this is urgent. So this could be like the beginning of a conversation to get some feedback. Do we need to do some demonstrations? Do people want to say this is great, or Jeremy, you know best, bring something back to present to us? But I wanted to bring this to the committee first because this is definitely something that you all should weigh in on, because if we were to do new cameras, both handheld and PTZ, that could very easily run up into, a significant amount of money, $50,000 plus, if we were to buy everything. And I'd like to get a little bit of feedback for what's the best direction. So we don't have to continue this full conversation right now. This could be something that we continue, or you can give me some feedback and let me know what you want me to come back with.
What's your outer date limit?
Well, as soon as one of these fails, I will need to replace them. There's one that has gone off and hasn't turned on before. Some of you may have noticed, if we have some staff filming, if you watch the meetings, sometimes the camera just kind of goes like this on its own. And a couple of them won't maintain focus, very, very easily.
Soon.
So soon. I would say the PTZ cameras are something that I'd like to address this year. The handheld cameras, we don't really have anything to loan out to anybody. We don't really have anything other than my personal stuff and some old DSLRs.
How often do people ask for loaners?
They don't. Our staff does, but we don't. We haven't been really working with the community to say, hey, we have some stuff that would be great. Some of the ideas that we've discussed in the past is, having a detailed volunteer program where you get some hours to do some training. Pretty much our CMAC staff, I'll do some training and provide that to our CMAC staff, our committee members over the years, just as kind of like, that's kind of the vetting process that we've done. If you've become a member of the advisory body and you're here on the dais, I feel fairly certain that I can train you and loan some equipment and it will come back.
Sure.
So do you have any questions for me regarding this, or thoughts?
Well, I think it would be helpful if you could put something in writing that details some of the benefits, pros and cons of these different systems. Because I think it's important to have HD quality for not only for broadcast, but also for streaming.
Yeah.
So wherever we can improve that, I think that's important. And currently, the EOS Stone cameras are not HD, is that right?
They are HD, but it's just
Not
the image.
for streaming.
It's a big, noisy image. It's it just doesn't look very good unless all the lights are turned on. If all the
Right.
lights are turned on, those cameras actually do okay, but it's not great. And 90% of the stuff we're doing is just the cameras are maxed out and they look bad.
Are there no cameras at the community, at the big room right now?
In the big room, currently we have no cameras installed there.
Well, I like the idea of being able to reuse some of these cameras rather than not having, just have to get rid of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that
How
idea
that
too.
goes.
Because what we could do is, I can pull, one of these cameras and we can test it in those other rooms to see kind of what it looks like. Because I know that this camera and that camera are not doing as well. They get the most use. Those two in the back are doing a little bit better. One of those is primarily a wide shot.
And if you're talking about having to get the switcher to be compatible with the new camera, I guess I would like to see any of those switchers be standard, both here and at the community center.
That's actually really helpful to hear, because if we're training, we have that old Sony system because that was the cameras that we had before,
Right.
and it wasn't we actively wanted to use that. That was the Sony cameras that we had at one. It's that camera controller has been repurposed since 2007.
Yeah.
So
For training purposes, I think it's better for things to be similar.
in the two.
Yeah.
If you're in one place or the other, you can operate them. And also, I think we had a couple of instances where one of those switchers went down. We had to swap it out. So if you have one that's the same type,
Well, we're not talking about the switcher. We're talking about the camera controller.
camera controller, okay.
The switchers are actually both working.
those are okay.
Those are okay
All right.
The
currently.
cameras that aren't doing as well, those are the side cameras?
Yes.
And that's because they swivel?
No, they're the ones that get used most
They
often.
have more hours logged.
Yeah, they have more hours
I
of doing
see.
movement. So I think the physical mechanisms are starting to, what we could do is, I probably should rotate these like tires.
Yeah.
And I haven't done that.
Go ahead.
Oh, I guess my question would be with the handheld cameras. It was very helpful when you said, all right, we don't really have cameras to line up, but we also don't have a lot of demand for them.
Yeah.
So I guess it's a question of like between community use, city staff use, events at the high school, and student filmmakers or community filmmakers, and be like, how often do we anticipate that they need them, and that, at least for me, would help me figure out, okay, it's easier to just get a bunch of handheld cameras with a big red button without the ability to switch lenses, because the folks that really want to deal with, I want to use a 50 mil for this
Yeah.
project, it's a pretty small niche. It's just a niche that would care a lot about it.
Right.
So it might be that when we really have a insanely passionate filmmaker, we have a camera available for that. But
Yeah.
most of them, we can just go with effectively a camcorder.
And really anybody who's a real filmmaker either has their own stuff or they know where to get it. I think what we're trying to do is get community members telling their stories, and that probably, if we're looking at like a history of what community media access has been, we don't have a studio space, so we've kind of looked towards what can we do for the people to give them give them the tools or resources, and since we don't have a lot of place to store tools, we've been more about like how can we do resources, and that's one of the reasons why Film Fest came up. What I'm in looking at our, the next couple of things on our agenda for today, once this comes up, is a volunteer program and doing some real outreach with that, coordinating that, and what would that entail? Would we need some equipment for that? Would that be these cameras? Would that be volunteers to train on some of our installed systems? So ultimately, it's all kind of connected. But what is our next steps in connection? I've held off on purchasing a lot of this equipment because things have been changing pretty swiftly in the last 4 or 5 years in terms of camera equipment, and so I've got some different ideas, but I just really wanted, before I went and start looking at costing out these things, I wanted to get some feedback.
Okay, so,
Well, I think the priority should be the city council cameras.
Okay.
From my point of view. But I think our goal as a committee is to provide community access. So we still want to have some equipment that community members can get
Right.
access to.
Well, like I said, none of this is urgent. We can focus maybe I can come back in October with some real pros and cons. And then perhaps in between that time, I can set up some demos and invite the committee to come in with the vendors and take a look firsthand and give some feedback. Those, so long as we don't have a quorum, or I could set up as a special meeting training where everybody can come. So it's not terribly difficult either way.
Great. Okay. 6.2, Community Media Volunteer Program.
This is a continuing item that's been on our agenda for a while, coming up on how to create a program essentially that we could advertise that would recruit people and connect people here in Albany. How we should do that was one of the reasons why this committee shifted to be a quarterly committee, with the hopes from council that we would be able to set up a volunteer program, since committee members can't really move freely through the types of productions that we want to do for reasons of the Brown Act. Putting those people together that want to make shows, want to produce content. Maybe there's more videographers or audio engineers here in Albany, or people who are really passionate about news. There's a dearth of Albany news because of the folding of newspapers, throughout the region. So, what can we do as a community media access committee to support that? What sort of platforms would that be? Is it website? Is it finding funds? Is it trainings? Is it workshops? Is it meetups? Is it something to do with film festivals? So I don't want to put that out for a discussion, and perhaps any direction that the committee can give to me to bring back to the committee, or if the committee wants to create a subcommittee to kind of work on this more in depth and come back. But it looks like we've got we're fully staffed, save for our school board appointees. So we've certainly got enough people to be able to disseminate the work.
Well, we've got a few minutes to talk about it. New member, I would throw it open to you guys if that's a topic that you're interested in. I'm not sure, what your thoughts are.
You said we had some restrictions through the Brown Act?
Well, now that since you're a new member, you will get some training materials in terms of how the Brown Act governs communications outside of a public meeting.
Yes.
So no more than a quorum. Well, actually, maybe Jack, perhaps you can speak specifically to that. I think you may be the best knowledgeable person on the Brown Act. Committee members can't gather and talk about city business outside of a public meeting. Yeah. And so that restricts email communications, phone calls, texting, when it has to do with city business. So you could imagine if all 5 of you wanted to be on the same production of Albany News Today, mm-hmm. every single production meeting would have to be noticed as a public meeting. And that was our experience in the past with people who were interested in coming and being part of this and actually doing something. As soon as they were on the committee, it was very difficult to do something because, well, okay, only 2 or 3 people can get together, but we need 4 people to operate all the cameras. And
we can all talk to Jeremy.
You can actually all talk to me.
Jeremy can talk to all of us.
But the committee can't effectively serve as a production crew because
Correct.
every production would be a community meeting.
Right.
Correct.
Well, if you have less than a quorum, you can get together.
But as anybody who's done production, 2 people is really hard to do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can shoot pickups.
Yeah, right.
We get B-roll footage.
Yeah, exactly.
I see.
So you could have a couple of people from our committee who work on a production, but then you need to get some other volunteers.
Yeah.
That's why the community comes into it, where we can have community members who aren't on the committee as part of the crew.
Which we would love to have community members creating their
And
own.
it's so great to have a public.
Yeah, full circle here. We've been trying to do this ever since this committee was formed.
Yeah, And in Fits and Starts, we've done some good things. We've advertised regular meetings where we've done storytelling workshops. Film festival kind of came out as a result of some of that type of thought. But what can we do on a regular basis? You know, that I mean, we have limited staff time, and you all have lives. So what could we set up that would be easy to manage, that would put people together? We have a number of city facilities that are open for meeting space. You know, we have local business that is, you know, that is really receptive to doing things in their spaces where people are buying food and drink and talking about stuff. How do we put people together? You know, we have a pretty big reach with our email distribution through e-news and the website and our social media. So what are the tools that we want to leverage to make this happen, and get people talking together and having them generating their own content? Because basically, if anybody creates something that's good, we will put it on KALB, and if somebody makes something that's bad, we'll probably put it on too because it came from Albany. You know, this is really, the Albany channel, which plays 24/7 on Comcast, is something that everybody here in Albany has access to. So how do we set that up so it's easy for us to take it and put it on?
Yeah,
on
we have a YouTube
platform?
channel.
Yeah,
I mean, it's not limited to TV.
correct.
I think maybe people don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's another point. It's, when we say media, we're not just talking about
Yeah,
the
that's why it's
video-
called media.
video
Yeah.
content. If it's a website or music,
Well, and that's kind of the broad scope. With my particular background in music, audio, and video, we've got just by having me kind of be the liaison to this committee, I'm also the engineer for all of the city productions. We're doing all the coordination with our. Nico is a graduate of our audiovisual apprentice, program. So he's been schooled in the ways of wrapping cables and, plugging things in.
We're open to podcasts,
Yeah.
video.
Podcast, video,
podcasts.
PSAs, news stories.
Yeah, wide open.
There's a lot of different things that we can do. We just need somebody to really spearhead that. For example, we can use any of these installed camera systems to be a temporary set for something. Would we want to do that? We've had a number of conversations over the years for talk shows. But we need hosts, and we need people to run the cameras. We need people to kind of do all of the logistics for setting up, people to interview and talk, and then have it pertain to Albany. So. The high school has been a great resource at different times, but the high school, students and staff are busy with their own things, so we can't necessarily rely on them as to be a constant, source of doing everything for free because they're so great and they're looking for the opportunity to put something on their resume. So we need to kind of create some better structure for Albany citizens to let them know that there's this thing that they could participate in if they were interested.
I think also it's been hard. I don't think training is something that's worked so far, training the public. That's harder, so I think we need people with a minimum amount of even just basic video experience and a lot of enthusiasm.
Yeah, my thoughts have been enthusiasm, and storytelling.
Yeah.
What we have a budget to pay for people to come in and do trainings. We don't have to do it, but
Right.
what do we want? What do people want to learn? We can book rooms at the community center, at the senior center, and or even here at City Hall to do workshops and trainings and classes and those sorts of things. But like you said, we don't have a studio. We don't really have the expertise necessarily amongst everybody to do trainings. But we can be a resource. And what should we work on? And that is what our media volunteer program would be. And then perhaps we would have a body of people here in the community who want to get involved. And we say, hey, we need 10 people for this baseball game that we're doing for Little League. Who wants to come?
Well, I think it's a worthy goal. I think isn't it part of our work plan
It
to
is.
come
It
up
is.
with this? My only question is, your plate's pretty full.
It is. Yeah.
So for you to take this on, I'm not sure how it would work.
Not really. I can support. I can certainly do kind of like some logistical support, but we need some ideas and some thought behind it. Like, what do we want to do, and I can help facilitate that.
Yeah, I think
But-
we need community members to come together on their own without us guiding them and come to us with a project, maybe?
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if you did have some money in your budget for staff, part-time staff.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility we could try to get someone who could help organize that as part of
Yeah.
their duties?
Yeah, that could be, we were prioritizing more of social media and then camera operation that type of role. But we could turn that into maybe more of an administrative, because I haven't hired anybody for the vacancy that's,
Because someone could do outreach with the community, trying to find those people,
Right.
who want to do that and
yeah,
help get them organized.
okay.
You want to find who they are and then find what they want to make,
Right.
which could start with just what do you enjoy, what kind of media do you enjoy consuming, and then what do you then want to make yourself,
Yeah,
which is usually how people.
Some cities have just even doing like $200 stipends for people to write, news items. It could be something as simple as, news about Albany, because that's one thing that we don't have. And I know that there's an active group of people here in Albany who want to see some kind of news.
Maybe if we could figure out some sort of outline of possible things that we could suggest to people they might want to make in Albany, you could put it in the newsletter.
Yeah, and then we can do a survey.
Just do a
some sort
bullet
of-
list,
yeah.
say, these are the
Some sort of
things.
research to see
Yeah.
I think
what's going to
people-
bring people in and.
Right, and just say,
Well, my suggestion to be, since we're at the time, and the other stuff is actually pretty quick, perhaps by October, we can come up with whatever that list is. We can talk through that list and refine it to 5 or 10 kind of things. And then in October, November, we can put out that call, unless people want to move sooner than that. I know that August is pretty open for me. September is going to be very busy. October is going to be recovering from September. So,
so what's your choice?
but I think that could be something that if you guys have thoughts, you could just email those to me, or if you think you want to do it like that, I can just send some stuff back to you after you. I can compile everybody's thoughts, send it all out to you, and then we could put something out in August or September, get some feedback. That way we can move forward at our October meeting for refining.
Sounds good.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I'd like to start doing some sort of research to see what people are interested in.
And the way that we do this committee is that if you like to do that, then that's your assignment.
No, this is, this is
You've just volunteered for the new subcommittee on media volunteer
on media
program.
volunteer outreach, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that would be awesome.
All right.
Okay.
That means we're going to talk in a bit.
Future agenda items. So I think we're putting on the
Oh, wait,
agenda.
we have 6.3 upcoming community
6.3.
events.
Oh, sorry, upcoming community events.
So Solana Stroll's coming up.
That's what's coming up.
Yeah, Solana Stroll will be here in
In
a little bit
just
over a
minute.
month.
Yeah.
Do we want to do the same thing that we did
Yeah.
last year?
Yeah.
Okay. So basically, we did interviews throughout the day, and we attempted a live stream.
Well, we need an interviewer, though.
Yeah, we need an interviewer.
That can be
somebody
you, Naomi.
Yeah.
Oh, it can't be me.
So does anybody want to work with me on, basically, so what is the day of the Solana Stroll? It's usually like the second weekend
Like
of,
the 9th. I
It's
think.
either like between the 9th and 11th
The 9th.
usually.
It's the 8th or the 9th,
yeah, okay.
September.
September. I can,
It's Sunday, right?
it's usually a Sunday,
Yeah.
I
yeah.
think it's the 8th.
Yeah.
I always have an event.
So we set up a booth, KALB and Film Fest represent, trying to move away from a bunch of paper and things to hand out, but it's a promotional opportunity to get people to sign up for an email list and talk about, Albany, KLB, community media sort of things. But what we did last year was really interesting. We did 4 live interviews and we did a live stream. And we set up a small PA system so people who were walking by could hear what the conversations, and they were Albany topics. I think we had Peter Goodman from the Arts Committee, Ken McCroskey, right? Naomi, you talked to Film Fest, and who was there a 4th, or was it?
Oh.
So yeah, so we filmed them. We put them out, and they were 10-minute discussions. And I think we could, if we set up our space a little bit differently, we could, and if we published who was talking and put that out, we would get more people showing up, I think. It was perceived as haphazard, even though we were doing interviews on the hour. So we didn't get a big crowd around, but there were at least, 10 to 15 or 20 people who were listening to the conversation at a time. So we would just need people to be at the booth, maybe volunteer to talk about media stuff to whoever comes around. It's about a 6-hour chunk of time, could be divided up into a few different hours. But we also have the Concert in the Park series that will be happening in September, on every Wednesday in September, and Albany Local Week, which will be coming up. And those are all different community events that happen through the Recreation Department where we could have a presence at and talk about, media, talk about Film Fest.
Yeah, I feel like that would be a good place. Those are all
Yeah.
opportunities for me to get in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Get people's input on
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
they'd like to see and what they'd like to make.
Yeah.
So you and I can just, we could talk offline.
Yeah, let's do it.
And I can give you all of those dates and we can work out some sort of strategy for getting the information from the Albany public. Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So for the future, I guess we're going to be discussing the community media volunteer program
Okay.
and the camera system upgrade.
Yeah.
Still on the agenda. So it's going to look much like this
Very similar with the exception of the election.
of the election, unless, never know.
At least we're in 2019 at this meeting.
Yeah.
The last one, you got that one.
All right. Well,
Adjourn.
Yep.
I wanted to ask, Chloe, you presented the work plan to the city council. How did that go?
It was good. You can watch it on the
Oh, gosh, that's
video,
right.
but
Yeah, right.
yeah, it went really well, and they all seemed very happy with what we were doing, and a couple people had a few comments, but they were all very positive.
Well, thank you for doing that and representing us.
I wanted to thank Chloe for being here, and because she's leaving.
She is leaving, yeah.
She's going to Pennsylvania, far, far away, to go to college. So,
Congratulations.
yeah,
Yeah.
congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And thank
Have a
you for
great
all of your time, here. It's been a pleasure to have you on the committee. Eileen Harrington, who is our the admin secretary, she's like, she can stay if she wants to Skype in.
Yeah.
I mean, I
If you would,
could.
if you would like to do, we do have the technology to do that. If you're interested, maybe we can talk. If you want to stay,
We'll
want to
talk.
stay on, that is a possibility.
I want to thank
I'll
you.
bring my name card with me, and I can
Yeah.
hold it up
Hold it up.
on the video call.
Also, Outstanding Film Fest Volunteer of the Year.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, always reliable. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Where are you going to school?
I'll need it. Bryn Mawr.
Oh, Bryn Mawr. I've heard of that.
Spell it? Can you spell it?
Maybe.
All right.
It's okay because half my face made it on there.
Yeah, that's enough.
Yeah,
That's good.
I'm honored.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going to
Make a motion.
make a motion. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All
Okay,
right.
great.
Meeting is
Thanks
adjourned.
thanks for bearing with
7:08.
me here. I'm adjourning the meeting at 7:08 PM.
All right. Thank you very much.